UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Nascimento is coming up this weekend, and today, guys, we are breaking down the entire card. We're predicting the fights. We're taking a look at the betting lines. We're going to be breaking down everything with timestamps if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back, guys, to another full card breakdown and prediction video. Let's not have the intro too long. Let's get into the first fight, that being Tabatha Ricci versus Tecia Torres. Man, I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen, I was just about to say, I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen Tecia Torres, and it was 2 years ago. So Tecia Torres, coming off of a very, very long layoff. I actually don't know if she was off for any particular reason, but anyways, she is pushing 35 years old right now, taking time off in her prime, which is really, really interesting. She is, honestly, she doesn't exactly excel anywhere. She is your typical WMMA fighter, but she is taking on Tabatha Ricci, who is, when it comes to technique, she's way better. She is a fantastic grappler, and what I do love about Tabatha Ricci is something that a lot of fighters, in my opinion, should be doing more, and that is Tabatha Ricci is all about position over submission. She'll take you down, she will play it about as safe as possible, grind you out, take her time transitioning, take her time using ground and pound, which could lead to a little bit of a boring fight. That doesn't make it boring in my opinion, and she will grind you out looking to get a submission. She's a very, very safe grappler. You don't see a lot of people doing that nowadays. So Tabatha Ricci really excels at that. She is coming off of her first loss to Lupita Godinez, but honestly, it's losing to Lupita, especially in a split decision. It's not anything to really look down upon, in my opinion. So before that, she was kind of on track to not necessarily become a champion, but a lot of people were really, really high on her, and I still am high on Tabatha Ricci. When it comes to this matchup, though, I would imagine that Tabatha Ricci will have no problem really just doing what she does and taking people down. She'll take Tecia Torres down. She'll grind her out to submission. Tecia Torres is a little bit strong, but I think Tabatha Ricci will be more strong in this fight. You got to question, though, Tecia Torres coming off of a 2-year layoff now, pushing 35 years old. Again, I don't know why she was off, so if anybody could clear that up in the comments, I would appreciate it. Before we take a look at the betting lines, though, I want to talk, and if you guys are new here, I talk about what fighters that I would like to see win for this fight. To be honest with you, I don't particularly have a preference. I don't actually care about it, but let's take a look at what the betting side of things look like right now. And as of right now, Tabatha Ricci is sitting at a slight favorite, which is honestly surprising to me. That's actually something that I wouldn't mind targeting, but I don't know, man. I just think Tabatha Ricci is going to win. I don't really see her having too much of an issue in this fight. Let's continue down the card into the next fight, that being Jared Gooden taking on Kevin Jousset. I am still kind of mad at Jared Gooden's last fight because if you guys don't, I'm a big fan of Glover Teixeira's gym, and when he took on Wellington Turman, a guy who I was really high on. I think I was talking about how improved he was, and I'm pretty sure I picked Wellington Turman to win that fight. But anyways, I can't believe that he won this fight. I'm still salty about it because he was getting outclassed 1000%, and he just got a lucky shot in that fight. So honestly, Jared Gooden's coming off of 2 not-so-great performances over here, but you know what? At the end of the day, he ended up getting the win. Jared Gooden has huge, huge power with, decent takedowns. He doesn't exactly excel anywhere, but what he lacks in technique, he kind of makes up for with strength and power. He's taking on Kevin Jousset, who is pretty much the complete opposite. He is a striker with a slow pace, low volume. He likes to take his time, do what he wants, and when he gets close to you, sometimes it can utilize takedowns, but for the most part, Kevin Jousset does a great job at slowing down the pace and really making you work to just try to get to him, because he does a great job at implementing his game plan, and so far, he has looked absolutely fantastic. We've only seen him in the UFC a couple times, but I've liked what I've seen from Kevin Jousset. I don't think he's any world-class fighter or anything. We'd have to wait and see, of course, for that, but it doesn't look like, regardless, coming into the UFC, he's looked good. That's what I'm trying to say. When these two match up, I would imagine that Kevin Jousset, and I'm not confident in this pick whatsoever, but I would imagine that Kevin Jousset would be able to have Jared Gooden kind of play Kevin Jousset's game. I don't think Jared Gooden will be storming, because the way to beat Kevin Jousset seems to be hey, you need to storm this guy, you need to make him uncomfortable. And Jared Gooden, he doesn't necessarily have a slow pace, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Kevin Jousset. I'm kind of sitting, though, because Jared Gooden does have good takedowns. He has huge power for the division. I don't know. I just can't see him beating Kevin Jousset. Well, I can, but it's a little bit of a tough fight. When you're thinking about these guys stylistically, it's a little bit of a tougher fight. So I am going to pick Kevin Jousset in this matchup, but I'm not confident in that. I'm not confident in that. For who I'd like to see win, though, I would like to see Kevin Jousset continue on his win streak that he has going on over here, which is interesting if we take a look over at the betting side of things on Odds Jam. Kevin Jousset sitting at a pretty comfortable favorite. I would imagine that's okay. Like, I would... I don't know if it's... I don't want to target Kevin Jousset. This fight's kind of all over the place for me. I have conflicting views on this one, but I do think that Kevin Jousset's going to get the win. I'm going to predict him for the video, and there's always a possibility of Jaron Gooden to find that finish. Just look at his last fight, man. Just look at his last fight. Let's keep going to the next fight, though, that being Jake Hadley versus Charles Johnson. If you guys don't know, I am a fan of Charles Johnson. Jake Hadley's really fun to watch, too. This should be one of the fights of the night, to be honest with you. I'm most excited for this fight out of a lot of them on the card. So you have Jake Hadley, who is... there's not a lot to break down with Jake Hadley. He is a very well-rounded fighter. Charles Johnson, though, he is a very, very speedy, excellent striker with great technique. The problem is he is shown to have a little bit of a hole in his game, and he suffers against high-pressure wrestlers. He's hard to finish on the ground, but you can take him down, and you can hold him down. That's where you've seen a lot of his losses recently, and even he barely got by in his last fight, okay? So Charles Johnson, the path to beat him is there, but what Charles Johnson does have is heart and... Okay, he doesn't have the best cardio, but he has all the heart in the world to get back up on his feet. And that worries me for Jake Hadley, because Jake Hadley, especially in his fight against Cody Durden, he showed, honestly, this was an incredible fight. The stock went up against Cody Durden, in my opinion. Both guys had their moments. It was primarily on the ground. Both guys were constantly threatening submissions and showed great scrambles. Durden just did a little bit more in this fight to get the win. So the performance that I've seen from Jake Hadley, especially in his last fight, which wasn't that long ago, 8 months ago, he can definitely utilize that same kind of fight against Charles Johnson, because, again, we've seen Charles Johnson suffer to that kind of pressure. But I will say, Jake Hadley doesn't have the threatening grappling that someone like Cody Durden has, because you see Cody Durden as a common opponent over here, and Charles Johnson really, really suffered against Cody Durden. I really like the performance that Jake Hadley had against Cody Durden. So if this is on the feet, this is typically how Charles Johnson fights go, to be honest with you. If it's on the feet, Charles Johnson will get the better of him. If Jake Hadley can utilize the takedowns and use that high pressure that we've seen Charles Johnson suffer against before, then Jake Hadley will get the win. The only problem is, like I said, I don't think that Jake Hadley is as dangerous of a grappler as somebody like a Cody Durden, but he definitely can do it. His heart's there, his cardio's there, his technique is there, but we haven't seen him really have those fights where it's spam takedown, spam takedown, spam takedown, want to hold you there, want to submit you. So this is a really tough fight in my opinion, and honestly, I think this one should be a little bit closer to a pick'em. For my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Jake Hadley. But again, I'm looking at this fight, honestly, guys, I'm looking at him like a pick'em fight. For a fighter who I hope wins, I hope Charles Johnson gets the job done. I always love to see the heart that he has put on. I've been watching this guy since he came in LFA. He is honestly a really, really great fighter, in my opinion, with a lot of heart, and I would like to see him get the win over here. So let's continue on over to Odds Gem to see what the odds are. Jake Hadley sitting at a slight favorite. Yeah, like I said, man, the odds are a little bit close. I thought it should be a little bit of a pick'em fight, so it's going to be a good fight, man. I'm really, really excited for this one. Let's keep going up the card, though, to JJ Aldrich versus Veronica Hardy. I always like watching Veronica Hardy fight because I feel like she's improving every single time we see her, but at the end of the day, Veronica Hardy is your typical WMMA fighter, but like if you were an extra level above that, but like nothing special, to be honest with you. The only thing that I see from Veronica Hardy that really stands out is she has a really good body kick, well placed, well timed. The only problem is she lacks a little bit of power. She's taking on JJ Aldrich, who there's nothing to ride home about her. She's your typical WMA fighter, and this breakdown's going to be simple in my opinion. I think Veronica Hardy is just going to be a little bit better. I know that's not too in-depth, but Veronica Hardy will have a little bit better cardio. She'll have a little bit more technique. Probably the same amount of power, but Veronica Hardy she has promise in this division. She's improving still. She's just entering her prime. JJ Aldrich, we've seen enough, and she's 13-6. The record speaks for itself. I know the record's similar to Veronica Hardy, but I believe that Veronica Hardy is improving. So for this fight, I'm going to pick Veronica Hardy, and honestly, I hope Veronica Hardy wins. I'm a fan of Dan Hardy, and I like Veronica Hardy when she appears on Dan Hardy's channel. I hope she gets the win here. But let's see what the betting site has to say over here. You can see Veronica Hardy sitting at a slight favorite. Honestly, I don't mind targeting that one. I don't. I think she's just going to be a little bit better. I know it's a little bit of a simple breakdown, but there's not too much to break down with that one, in my opinion. Let's move on to the next fight, though, and this should be a really, really good one. We have Trey Waters taking on Billy Goff. This is probably going to be a striking match, although Billy Goff can definitely explore the grappling. You have Trey Waters, who is a very fast striker with a really, really good jab. Billy Goff, a little bit more of the same, but he also does have wrestling in his back pocket. We've seen him use it, but at the end of the day, he does thrive in stand-up. He wants to keep the fight on the feet, so when breaking this fight down, if Billy Goff decides to use the wrestling, which I question whether or not he's going to be using the wrestling, he can beat Trey Waters. But even then, like, this is going to be a very, very interesting striking match. You have, oh man, I'm excited for this one, man. I'm excited. The only other thing that makes me worry, because Billy Goff, like I said, Billy Goff has the options. Billy Goff can really make the fight where he wants it. But Trey Waters has a big reach advantage on him. And Trey Waters can use that because Trey Waters has a fantastic jab. And that can piece you up pretty quick. So this is tough. I'm going to slightly lean towards Trey Waters in this matchup because Billy Goff does like to strike. Yes, he can open up the grappling, but I question whether or not Billy Goff is going to actually explore that, or if he'll want to just use the stand-up and thrive with it, have a firefight. I could see him doing that. And if that's the case, I would imagine that Trey Waters would be just a little bit better. The reach advantage would come into play. I'm excited for this fight. This is a really, really good one. For who I hope wins this fight, guys, I don't really care. I'm just excited to see both guys fight. Over on the betting side of things, you can see that Trey Waters is a very slight favorite. I'm kind of sitting there too. I just don't know how this fight's going to go. In my opinion, this isn't a fight to bet on. I think it just depends on what Billy Goff wants to come in and do. You know what I mean? Regardless, I'm going to sit back. I'm definitely going to enjoy this one. Let's continue on to the next fight, though, and this is another really good fight on the card. We have Terrance McKinney taking on Esteban Ribovics. This is probably going to end really quickly. That'd be my guess. So you have Terrance McKinney, who's bounced back with 2 really, really nice wins. And Terrance McKinney is one of those guys who I believe is much better than his record. I know people are kind of writing off Terrance McKinney. I am not ready to do that yet. He's just entering his prime. He's coming off of 2 really, really good wins. Nice bounce back wins. And plus, look at his recent losses, because after he got these 2 losses, people were kind of off the Ismail Bonfim train. Terrance McKinney, after he lost Ismail Bonfim and then lost to Nazim Sadikov. I think these are 2 losses that have aged incredibly well. And also, speaking of off the train, I know Ismail Bonfim, people are off of the train for him as well. I'm recording this video before he fights this previous weekend than when you would see this video. I'm scheduling to go live right after the card. So I would imagine Ismail Bonfim got another win. I still think these are good losses to have, okay? He's taking on Esteban Ribovics, who is a striker with good power, grappling to back it up. This guy doesn't always play it safe. He always wants to go for the finish. And Terrance McKinney wants to do more of the same thing. I would imagine that these 2 are just going to go in and start swinging. And if that's the case, anything can happen. Both guys can explore the ground game. Both guys can strike. I would imagine that Terrance McKinney's reach advantage will come into play here, because he does use his reach really, really well. And he is on a little bit of a roll. I know Esteban Ribovics won his last fight as well, and he's coming off of, he had a loss against Loic Razabov before that. But even then, like, I don't look at that as really anything to write home about. I think both guys have losses that have aged extremely well. I don't trust McKinney's chin. That's the problem. I don't trust it. He's been knocked out before, and he can get knocked out again, because Esteban Ribovics can definitely catch him. You don't even have to have like the good power that he has, but he does have good power. I would imagine that Terrance McKinney will use his length in this fight. If they grapple, I actually don't know who's going to get the better of it. I would imagine Terrance McKinney is a little bit stronger, maybe. I kind of got a gut feeling on this one, guys, and I'm going to pick Terrance McKinney to get the win. Again, I am certainly not one to bet on this fight. For who I hope wins, I don't care about this one either. I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to enjoy the fight. Let's continue on over to the betting side of things. Interesting. Esteban is about -200 favorite. Okay. You know what? I don't hate that. Because Terrance McKinney has been a little bit inconsistent, but I think people are counting out Terrance McKinney. Perhaps Terrance McKinney is an underdog opportunity for the official betting guide that will be coming out. But guys, let's keep going up the card, because the next fight I am excited for. We have Chase Hooper taking on Viacheslav Borshchev. And apologies if I'm pronouncing his first name wrong. I still am kind of getting used to that one. But guys, this is a banger, and I'm low-key hoping that what is wrong with me, man? Chase Hooper ends up getting the win. Chase Hooper had an interesting ride in the UFC. He's a grappler with an insane heart, good cardio. We've seen him really lack in the striking game, but he has been improving, okay? Because we've seen he's been up and down his career. He's had some really good wins and some really good losses, but the Jordan Levin fight, I had a little bit of a bigger takeaway from, in my opinion, because in this fight, we've seen from Chase Hooper, as we usually do, insane grappling exchanges. The fight, it went to the ground immediately, and Chase was consistently attacking. That's what I love to see from Chase Hooper, because if you watch any of his grappling, he does excel there. The problem, the thing is that I took away from this is I feel like he is still improving his game, because I loved the way he was mixing his punches into his defense. I don't love it enough to say that he's improved enough to take a guy on like Borshchev, because Viacheslav Borshchev is somebody that I am extremely impressed with. He is a striker with fantastic kicks, specifically leg kicks. Everything is nicely timed. His heart, his cardio, it's off the charts. And in the Nazim Sadikov fight, he really showed that. I know that his record in his last 5 have been spotty. I know. But I think that he is so much better than his last 5. I think he's a fantastic fighter. The problem is, can Chase Hooper get him to the ground? Because I know Chase Hooper is still improving, okay? He's getting better at striking. I will say that. I don't think he is nearly improving enough to take on a guy like Borshchev. I think if Borshchev can stop Chase Hooper's takedowns, stop Chase Hooper's pressure, and even then, that's a big thing, because if Chase Hooper's walking forward, I can see Borshchev just knocking down his legs so hard. My gut's telling me to not count out Chase Hooper, but my brain's telling me that Chase Hooper is biting off way more than he can chew right now, because while Chase Hooper is improving, I don't think it's enough to take on Borshchev. That's okay. I'm not listening to that. I'm officially picking Viacheslav Borshchev to absolutely put on a clinic striking against Chase Hooper, and it's going to look like one of those bad losses that we have seen Chase Hooper take. I really hope that Chase Hooper can get the win, though. I just like him as a person. Been a fan of his work. I love his grappling. I like watching my sister and I both like watching him, so I hope Chase Hooper can get the win. I just really don't see it happening, man. Interestingly enough, taking a look at the odds, Borshchev isn't a big favorite at all. I think that on the feet, this is a mismatch. I do. I'm not ready to hop on the Chase Hooper train, though. If Chase Hooper beats Viacheslav Borshchev the way that we know that he can, like the capabilities there, we've seen him have really good performances, then I will be on the Chase Hooper train. But for now, I'm not. I'm picking Viacheslav Borshchev to win the fight, and I'm sticking with it. My gut's just like, my guts tell me not to count out Chase Hooper, okay? But I like it for very slight odds. Borshchev, I don't mind it, man. But guys, before we get into the next fight, if you are interested, because I talk a lot about betting on this channel, if you're interested to see exactly where I put my money where my mouth is, or if you want to just support the channel, check out the channel membership. It is very cheap compared to other channels. You can find it next to the subscribe button. You can find it in the description. Pinned comment down below. Every single Thursday or Friday before the UFC event, I will be making a members only video on a YouTube community post talking about my official plays, what exactly I will be betting on, my confidence level, how much money I'm putting on it. I go through all of it in those videos, and typically I play it very safe. I'm recording this video before this one that you're seeing on the weekend, but you can always see the betting recaps on the channel. You can always see how we're doing, and typically we do very well. Also, if you're interested, a tool that I've been using in this video is OddsJam. They have so much more than just comparing sports books. If you are interested, pin comment description down below. You can get a discount using my link and code Clenbat. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Let's get into the main card. Starting off the main card, we have Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Robelis Despine. Now, it's interesting because Robelis Despine is very new to the UFC. He came in and he's put on a storm. This is a guy that we haven't seen anything of yet, because he comes in, he's huge. He has an 87-inch reach. He's 6'7". He comes in, storms his opponents, and knocks them out. We don't know much else about this guy. He's powerful, he's big, he's ready to go. He's taking on Waldo Cortez Acosta, who, and I have a problem making these breakdown videos, guys, because when you have a guy like Waldo Cortez Acosta, I feel really bad because I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but I don't know how else to say it. This guy has power, and that's it. And I particularly hated the Andrei Arlovsky fight. He could not finish a 45-year-old. He couldn't, okay? This guy's in his prime. He's a heavyweight with big power. He couldn't finish a 45-year-old, and he was actually having problems with it. I know that Andrei Arlovsky still has it, but Andrei Arlovsky is now 45 years old, and I don't think there's an excuse for these heavyweights to not finish him. Something that really bothered me, and you've heard me talk about this with other fighters, one of the Bonfim brothers particularly, I hate this, okay? I hate it when fighters start to struggle. Instead of adjusting, instead of fixing the game plan, instead of throwing something different, this guy was doing like salsa dances in the octagon and laughed at Andre. He did not adjust anything, and that tells me that you can not only give up in the middle of the fight, but I hate it when they just throw this little hissy fit in the octagon. I don't get it. I don't get why you wouldn't try to adjust. I don't get why you would change things. And I don't get why you have to go, oh my God, he's not fighting me. It's kind of like what Chris Curtis does. It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. And that just really, really makes me think that these people aren't willing to improve their game. I'm shocked that he has as many wins that he does. And I know, like, we've seen him perform before. Nothing has ever really impressed me. And the Andre Arlovsky fight really just completely made me turn on Waldo Cortez Acosta. So I am always kind of the opinion with Waldo Cortez Acosta, or recently I've gotten this opinion, if he fights anybody of significance, bet against him. The problem is, Robelis isn't anybody of significance. We don't know anything about him. He comes in, he storms people. And guys, honestly, I think he's going to do that to Waldo Cortez Acosta because he's a little bit inactive. All he has is power, and I think Robelis is coming in with a 10-inch reach advantage, a huge height advantage. The guy's just huge for the division. Until he fights somebody who can really test him in the grappling, I'm going to ride the Robelis train. For who I hope wins, honestly, I'm going to pick Robelis because he's very, very exciting. But let's continue on to the betting side of things. And interestingly enough, Robelis is only a slight favorite. That's something that I will strongly consider hitting because I know we haven't seen much of him, but I'm just left with such a salty taste about Cortez Acosta. I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. My pick is going to be Robelis to get the win here. Let's continue on up the main card, though. The next fight is Diego Ferreira taking on Mateusz Rebecki. How long's it been since we've seen Rebecki fight? I know it wasn't like, I was about to say, I knew it wasn't like a long layoff or anything. It's just I feel like people have been talking about him, we haven't seen him. Anyways, I love watching both of these guys fight. I've been a fan of Diego Ferreira for a very, very long time. He is a dangerous grappler with very, very good striking to back it up, but people don't talk about how good Diego Ferreira's striking is. And he has a lot of experience, and he's one of those fighters that can really hang with anybody. He's taking on Mateusz Rebecki, who is a grappler who will dive at you from anywhere. He wants to take you down. He wants to put you to the ground. He does a great job at pushing the pace. He will always come forward, so I am excited to watch this fight in particular. Also, sorry, I just realized my Google notification was up there. Anyways, Diego Ferreira is finally bouncing back after some really, really rough losses that he had, but the problem is Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson can win to anybody or beat anybody. Michael Johnson can lose to anybody. But Diego Ferreira, in these performances, the vast majority of them, and even when he loses, like he's only had 5 losses. He looks good in his losses. And it's important to note that while I'm usually quick to kind of dismiss somebody that's pushing 40, Diego Ferreira is one of those guys that is pushing against time. I don't know how long that's going to last, but something to keep taking into consideration that his age might finally catch up with him. Mateusz Rebecki, though, in his prime, has had a flawless run in the UFC so far and against decent competition as well. Okay. I can see Diego Ferreira, especially in round 1, really hanging Rebecki, but I don't like the idea of a guy like Mateusz Rebecki in his prime, a guy that pushes the pace the way Rebecki does, against somebody who's 39. I don't trust it, but Diego Ferreira can absolutely hang in the technique department, and I would go as far to say that he might just have better striking. I think he does have better striking. I think people sleep on Diego Ferreira's striking a lot. He just got a really solid KO, but I mean, that's not necessarily anything to ride home about against knocking out Michael Johnson, but it was a good performance, man. Diego Ferreira is a really, really underrated fighter. It's just the 39-year-old part is really bothering me because we are going to see him lose eventually, and that's not, I'm talking like he's hasn't lost 3 of his last 5, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he's defeated Father Time so far, but the time's coming. Mateusz Rebecki, though, I have to pick Mateusz Rebecki. He's looked flawless so far. He's taking everybody down. He wants to grind you out, push the pace. He wants to come in. He wants to utilize his game plan. He does a great job doing so. I have to pick him in this fight. But guys, honestly, I'm a big fan of Diego Ferreira. I will be sitting here and cheering with all of my heart because out of everybody on this card, I think I want Diego Ferreira to win the most. Nothing against Rebecki. Absolutely nothing against him. I've just been a big fan of Ferreira for a long time. Let's take a look at what the betting side of things looks like. And Diego Ferreira is sitting at a sizable underdog over here. I don't mind Mateusz Rebecki for almost 3-1 odds because he's probably one of the more confident picks on the card. Anything can happen in this fight, but I feel like that line's proper in my opinion. Let's keep going down the card though. We have Alex Caceres versus Sean Woodston. Man, I was so high on Alex Caceres when he went on. It was a little bit of a win streak over here. You remember when he was like, what was it? I don't know if he was actually 12-12, but something like that. And now he got pulled in a nice few wins together. Had a little bit of a hiccup, right, against Sadiq Youssef, but then bounced back with 2 really nice wins, and then, of course, lost to Giga Chikadze. He's taking on Sean Woodston. Sean Woodston is an extremely lengthy striker. He does a great job at staying on the outside and just kind of picking you apart. Something interesting about Sean Woodston, I don't remember if it was the last fight or the one before, but Dominic Cruz described the problem with fighting him absolutely perfectly because, of course, like we all know Sean Woodston, he is really, really oddly built. So Dominic Cruz was like, the problem is when you try to take him down, because that's a game plan. He's so lengthy for the division. You want to take him down, but it's like taking down the kitchen table. It's like impossible to take down a kitchen table. I just found that very funny, and I think it's honestly a really good way to describe the problem of fighting Sean Woodston. But Alex Caceres, his style is he's kind of decent everywhere, but doesn't exactly excel anywhere. He's one of those fighters. He's kind of a journeyman in the division. He's 35 years old now. I think he's definitely improved, but I don't know if Alex Caceres has necessarily hit a ceiling. Anyways, this is probably going to be a striking match, and even if Alex Caceres wants to utilize the takedowns, I think that Sean Woodston will be here like a kitchen table, like Cruz described. But it's like, it's so funny to me because it makes so much sense, but it's so odd, right? But Sean Woodston, as usual, he has a height and reach advantage. He's in his prime. I like the way that he's been coasting to his way to decision. He hasn't had any issues yet, and I don't think that Alex Caceres is going to be the guy to give him any issues. So I am confident in saying that Sean Woodston's going to win the fight, but for who I hope wins, man, I hope Bruce Leroy gets it done. I hope Bruce Leroy gets it done. Nothing against Sean Woodston. I've been following Alex Caceres for a long time, and I would like to see him get the win. Interesting again, because as of right now, Sean Woodston is just a little bit of a favorite. I see a lot of actually potential in betting on this card, which is very exciting. Check out the membership, guys, if you're interested to see where my bets actually end up. Let's continue on to the featured fight on the card. That's Alonzo Menifield versus Carlos Ulberg. So, guys, this is a tough one to pick, in my opinion. I like what I've seen from Carlos Ulberg so far, but you can never count out the power of Alonzo Menifield. So, Alonzo Menifield, he's a stand-up fighter with great power and great takedown defense. We have seen him have gas tank issues in the past, but he seems to have gotten over it. He's taking on Carlos Ulberg, who is a big, powerful striker with really good technique. I don't think there's too much to break down in this fight, to be honest with you. I think the fight's going to remain on the feet, and I think that Carlos Ulberg will have a little bit more of a technical advantage in this fight. I don't know who's going to be more powerful. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one, guys, because I am not feeling a strong way towards either guy in this fight. Both guys have looked pretty good recently. I have to assume that Carlos Ulberg's age might play a factor in here but then again, it's in light heavyweight and you can get away with being 36, almost 37. Carlos Ulberg has had the more impressive performances than Alonzo Menifield, and I think he'll just be a little bit better technical-wise. I know that wasn't too much to break down, but I think it's just going to be a stand-up fight, and Carlos Ulberg might just be a little bit better in this match. So I'm going to pick Carlos Ulberg to win in this fight. You can't count out Alonzo Menifield's power, though. I hope Carlos Ulberg gets it done, though. I'm not feeling too strong about it either way, but let's take a look at what the betting side of things say over here. Carlos Ulberg, a little bit of a favorite here. I don't mind that. Makes kind of sense to me. I don't know about you guys. Not a ton to break down with this fight. Let's move on to the co-main event. Joaquin Buckley is taking on Ruslan Ruziboev. Oh, guys. I've really come around to Joaquin Buckley. I'm starting to become a really big fan of the guy, and I just think that he is biting off a little more than he can chew in this matchup. Joaquin Buckley just fought, how long ago? 4 weeks ago. Yeah, I knew it just came, so he's probably still stayed in shape, but Ruziboev has looked so good, man. Ruziboev is 34-8. He is a heavy, heavy grappler that will do absolutely anything to get you to the ground, and he will pound away. He has great Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he really, really takes his time. Kind of like we were talking about with Tabatha Ricci, except he's just so much more dangerous. He's taking on Joaquin Buckley, who excels at boxing with really good power. Other than that, he kind of has a decent all-round game. Joaquin Buckley has put together 3 pretty nice wins. It is important to note, though, Andre Fialho, the win hasn't aged that well. Alex Morono is clearly past his prime. Vicente Luque, more of the same. The takeaway from Vicente Luque, in my opinion, is that Joaquin Buckley doesn't beat anybody in the top 10 of this division. Ruziboev, though, we still haven't seen him fight a guy like to the level of Joaquin Buckley. But the problem is the technique's there. Everything looks good with Ruziboev. This dude looks dangerous. It's not one of those guys where it's like, oh my god, I think he needs to be tested. I'm kind of convinced he's the real deal. I kind of am. He's coming down from 185. He's going to have a massive size advantage. Massive. And I just don't think that Joaquin Buckley is going to be able to get past that. I think that Ruziboev is going to take Joaquin Buckley down and do what he typically does. I really don't want to, but I have to pick Ruziboev. I don't think he's going to lose this fight. I think he's going to be too big, and I think Joaquin Buckley's biting off just a little bit more than he can chew, and Ruziboev is going to be a problem at welterweight. I will be sitting here, though, and I will be cheering with all my heart for Joaquin Buckley to get the job done. I would love to see him go on a win streak, man. Joaquin Buckley's become quite promotable. Great for the division. I really, really like Joaquin Buckley. Oh my god. Ruziboev's an underdog. Sorry, wrong button. I'm still getting used to these new OBS buttons over here. Ruziboev's an underdog. If he stays an underdog, I'm hitting that. I'm absolutely hitting that. I don't know what you guys... I don't know if I'm looking too deep into this, but I think Ruziboev has this one in the bag, guys. I'm picking him to win the fight. Now, guys, let's move on to the main event of the evening. We have Derek Lewis taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. Derek Lewis is one of those fighters, unfortunately, that is clearly past his prime. He's 39 years old now. He's only won 1 of his last 5, and that was honestly kind of shocking, but that's exactly a Derek Lewis way to win. Then he lost to Jailton Almeida, which... honestly, the loss hasn't aged all that well. He's taking on Rodrigo Nascimento, who is a grappler, who has aggressive striking, and the problem is you can get this guy into a firefight. He has no problem just sitting there and throwing hands with you. Derek Lewis isn't the guy you want to throw hands with, and Derek Lewis is a fighter with very little technique, relies on one big bomb, but the problem is he has that bomb. That's a big bomb. You can't eat a shot from Derek Lewis. So Derek Lewis is one of those guys that you can absolutely never count out. And I've said a long time ago that I will never bet on a Derek Lewis fight ever again just because he is so unpredictable. You can be beating Derek Lewis for 5 rounds and then just boop, one shot, you're out cold. Derek Lewis is just one of those fighters. So the question is, and I feel like the Derek Lewis breakdown is the same every single time that we see him. Can Derek Lewis land a shot? If he does, he's going to knock out Nascimento. If not, it's going to be a really rough night for him. Rodrigo Nascimento does have really good grappling. He does have to cut weight to make heavyweight. And I'm thinking, like, even if he gets Derek Lewis to the ground, sometimes we see the meme. And it's become a huge meme. You guys all know this, right? Derek Lewis, just stand up. I'm not going to use any technique. I'm just a big, giant man. And I'm just going to stand up. So he can do that if Nascimento takes him to the ground. But the thing is, Derek Lewis, as of recently, he's 39 years old. He is clearly showing up for just paychecks. He doesn't have any heart whatsoever. And I think Rodrigo Nascimento, being 31 years old, having a little bit of a reach advantage, I think he'll be able to get the win here. He is certainly technically better both on the ground and on the feet with Derek Lewis. But the problem is, and this is another reason why you shouldn't be betting on the fight, is you can suck this guy into a firefight. And even if he takes Derek Lewis down, is he going to keep him there? Jailton Almeida did. Maybe Derek Lewis really doesn't have it anymore. But I don't think that Derek Lewis, a 39-year-old with no heart and no technique, is going to win the fight. I don't think so. I'm going to pick Rodrigo Nascimento, but again, anything can happen in a Derek Lewis fight. I advise you guys to not bet on that fight at all. For who I hope wins, I hope Nascimento gets the win, man. Derek Lewis is just showing up for paychecks, and Nascimento actually wants to have a nice win over here. Let's take a look over what the betting side of things have to say. And Derek Lewis is actually sitting at a favorite, which is a little bit surprising to me because, again, his performances have been so lackluster lately. So, it's a tempting thing to hit, but I'm definitely not going to be betting on a Derek Lewis fight, guys. Let me know what you think about all of these picks down below. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the video on screen right now if you'd like to continue watching the channel. I will see you over there, guys. Take care.